conducting an audit of your fundraising practices, one of the best places to start is looking at inside your organisation and your existing fundraising work. Today we're going to have a look at Amir's fundraising portfolio at his small charity helping disabled adults. To calculate the true costs of each income stream and the value to the charity, we need to have a little bit more information. So to begin with, we need to have a clear understanding of, first of all, what Amir's salary is with on-costs to the charity, so that's £20,000, and we also need to understand what percentage of the charity's total overheads can be attributed to Amir's role. And in this case, we know that £2,200 can be attributed to Amir. Now that we've got that information, we can start to look at the costs for each income stream that Amir's been working on. So Amir's been spending time on trust applications. In fact, Amir spent 40% of his time writing trust applications. So in terms of his salary costs, that's 40% of his salary, which comes to £8,000. We can also then attribute 40% of his overheads, which comes to £800. We also know that there were no direct costs involved in trust fundraising, since he didn't have to put on any events or attend any meetings. This means the total cost of trust fundraising for Amir's charity that year was £8,800. We can do the same thing for direct mail. So Amir spent 20% of his time over the year working on the direct mail campaign. This equated to being £4,000 of his salary and £400 of his overheads. The direct cost of producing the mailing was £1,800, and this covered the design, printing and postage of the letters. That means the total cost comes to £6,200 for the direct mail income stream. The event that Amir held this year took up 40% of his time, which meant that 40% of his salary is attributed to the costs. This was £8,000. Likewise, 40% of his overheads are therefore attributed, which comes to £800. The direct costs of the event were £2,000, which means the total cost of putting on the event for fundraising that year was £10,800. What we want to do now is pull all of this together so we can start to compare the value of the income streams. Well, let's have a look at trust fundraising. We know the total cost was £8,800, but Amir also brought in £40,000 from those trust applications. That meant there was a net income of £31,200, where we took the £40,000 and minused the £8,800 cost. Now, to calculate the return on investment, all we have to do is take the net income and divide it by the total costs. This means we get 3.5 as a return on investment ratio. And what this means is that for every £1 that was spent by Amir's charity on trust fundraising, they raised £3.50. If we look at the direct mail campaign that cost £6,200, we can see that it actually brought in only £240 over the period of the year. The net income, therefore, was actually minus £5,960, which left a return on investment of just 0.9. Likewise, if we look at the event, which cost £10,800 and only brought in an income of £500, the net income was minus £10,300 and left a similar return on investment of 0.9. As you can see, only the trust fundraising proved to have a positive return on investment. But does this mean that Amir should stop direct mail and event fundraising? Well, the answer to this lies in the charity's fundraising objectives. If the charity needs to recruit new donors, the answer could be that they need to invest more heavily in direct mail. And they may have had a problem with local opposition to services, so it's important to win favour through events. So take a look at the film on SMART objectives for more on this. One of the key ways, though, to be able to check to see if your performance is going well is to compare it to previous years. If you don't have records or you've just started a new income stream, then you can also compare your ratios to the sector averages. These can be found on the IOF's website if you search for fund ratios. If we use these figures, we can see that in actual fact Amir's trust work could do with some additional support, because his return ratio of 3.5 is down on the sector figure that's closer to 9. Some additional training to help him develop better research or writing skills may really help. And in exactly the same way, Amir will review the direct mail campaign and look at the list that was used and the content of the mailing. He'll also look at the event and see if there were any conversations with potential major donors who might have a long-term value for the organisation. And of course, Amir will look at all the other elements of the internal structure that may be impacting on his fundraising. The results of an internal audit can be overwhelming, but remember, it's full of steps towards improving your fundraising in the future.